again as I think about.
This meeting is being recorded.
There we go. As if we didn't know, then this meeting is being recorded. So, Claire, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Claire and I don't know when we first met, because I've got a feeling we actually met some time ago prior to the sort of Chilterns networking that we met at more recently.
Yeah, I think we did meet probably maybe 4 or 5 years ago at a networking event. Yeah.
It's terrible of us that we can't remember which one, but hey, there's so much networking around these days.
Yeah.
So we're going to sort of run through a sort of conversation this morning, just to help us all learn a little bit more about Claire and what she does and her business journey, as well as learning hopefully some interesting things about her area of expertise, which is marketing and social media and the like. So Claire, we as a group we're not really a networking group designed to just push and push and push for business. We're a group of like-minded individuals who like to help each other through our business journey, as well as helping each other with referrals when they come along, or recommendations as and when appropriate. But we don't we don't set ourselves any targets for referring. We don't monitor who's referring business. We're not like that other networking group that may spring to mind. And that's why we like a format where we're really interested to learn about you, as well as learn from you about your skills. So perhaps we could just start with a brief intro from yourself. Where do you work? What do you do in your language?
Yeah, no, of course. So yeah, no, thanks so much for asking me to come along, Andy. So I'm Claire Fryer. So my business is called 1 to 3 Marketing. I'm based in High Wycombe. I just work from home. I occasionally, you'll find me in the lobby of the Hilton or the Holiday Inn to stay warm. That's a good tip for cold people. Just go and work in a nice hotel lobby. And I go to the Hilton so often they give me free coffee now as well. So I primarily we work with small businesses, generally across the southeast, but now that working on Zoom is very much kind of acceptable, work with businesses all around the country, but primarily southeast. And it's all about businesses that are looking to kind of take control of their digital marketing. So we're not about us taking on big outsourced projects. I don't want to do someone's marketing for them. I don't want to pretend to be that person. I want to empower small business owners to be able to do their own marketing with my support. So I don't like to use the word coach, but I've kind of morphed into a marketing coach over the last 2 to 3 years. So I'm someone's accountability. I train people how to use the tools. So for example, most people know what a Google business listing is, or a Google Maps listing, but most people don't know how to use it to its full capacity as a marketing tool. So it's that kind of thing that I teach people. Same with Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. I love copywriting, so I don't do that as much now, but I love writing website copy and social media content. So yeah, I guess it's all about empowering you as business owners to be able to enjoy your marketing more than anything. I think it's a shame when people see marketing as a bit of a slog.
Yeah, and especially these days when there's almost a formula that people keep pumping out that's saying if you want to do marketing, it's all digital and you must do it this many times a week and you must post on these many platforms and you must, and it becomes a huge.
And I completely disagree with that. I don't go down that school of thought at all, because at the end of the day, everyone's different. Everyone's got their own challenges within their business. Family life can be really busy, so to feel pressured to do marketing, to be going live on Instagram every other day, if you feel pressured to do it, you're not going to do it. And that's the experience that I've had with clients. So actually, when I give them permission just to not stress about it so much, they end up doing more because they're enjoying it. So it's that fairly relaxed approach to it, and understanding the person behind the business. That's what's really important to me.
Brilliant. Well, talking about understanding the person behind the business, we've all had sort of various journeys to getting where we are today that generally involves some career stuff and some personal stuff. What's your journey that's got you to 123 Marketing?
Okay, so going way back, and I like to think it's 20 years, but it's not. It's like 30, definitely 30 years now. I did a journalism and PR qualification at university, and I was sure I wanted to be a journalist until I did work experience and absolutely hated it and realised that it wasn't for me to start at kind of local newspaper level. I was quite shy when I was younger, and I just didn't anyway, so switched my specialty at uni to PR and copywriting and absolutely loved it. So my first so I grew up in High Wycombe, didn't intend to come back to this area really to live after uni, but did because I got a job in Marlow for a very small but up and coming pharmaceutical marketing agency. So I first worked in pharmaceutical PR. I was there for about 5 years, and I was writing press releases, and much to my kids' amusement, I told them I would print the press releases out and put them in an envelope with a picture and send, walk to the post box and post them off. So it was, real old school PR, getting coverage in specialist magazines for the launch of new products. But I also got involved they had a media buying team and a direct marketing team. So it was a really good place to kind of find my feet in the world of work and marketing. After about 5 years, I moved to a non-specialist agency. So still had some healthcare and pharma, but also automotive, beauty and retail clients. And I absolutely loved working there because I was able to kind of broaden my experience of different types of businesses, because as I'm sure you'll appreciate, the pharma industry is very restricted as to what you can say about especially prescription medicine, so it was very restrictive. So I got married in 2003, and we had our first little boy, who's 18 on Monday, so not so little anymore.
Wow.
Or had him, and I went back to work part-time as an account director at this point. Had a second son in 2007, and just thought, my work-life balance is just not good. And so after having the boys, I decided to kind of leap into being a freelancer. Did various projects and kind of got my first big client as a freelancer thanks to posting on LinkedIn, actually, which was quite new at the time. This was in 2009-ish, I think. So I'd kind of tinkered with small projects, but then I got, posted on LinkedIn that I was looking for some more projects. And my old boss from agency number one saw it, and she was doing some media buying for a veterinary chain, who are now Vets for Pets, who are owned by Pets at Home. And I'm still working with them. So that was my first big client. And then in 2010, I was out for dinner with one of my best mates, and she was also freelancing. And we thought, should we ever go at working together? And that's where 123 was born. So Lisa and I have been working in partnership ever since, still best of friends, genuinely love what we do. We have a brilliant time with what we do. So here we are, nearly 13 years later, still running our small but perfectly formed little marketing business.
Brilliant. And I think I have a business partner as well, but I think I'm the only other one here, unless anyone steps up and shouts, and they've been hiding their
I
business.
did have one.
You have one, Kaya?
I had one until the 31st of October.
And
we went our separate ways very amicably.
Yeah.
But I admire you for that friendship relationship as the foundation, and then building on that.
Yeah, I mean, we were we said from the very beginning that our friendship was the most important. I mean, we've been friends since we were 13, so our friendship is very deep and a very long friendship. So we always said friends come first, but we're just on the same wavelength. Our ambitions are the same. The way we work is very similar. She's got children of a similar age to mine, so I think we've just always stayed on the same track, which is partly luck, but equally we're very open with our communication with each other. I feel really blessed because we just have such a good time doing what we do.
That's fascinating. So my business partner and I are polar opposites, but that's kind of why it works for us as well. So he's more technical, he's into detail, he will peel back every layer of the onion to see where the potential pitfalls are. Whereas I'm, shiny and bright and all sparkly. Let's have that one. And we sort of balance each other out quite well.
Yeah.
So the next question then really is, that's how you got to where you are, and you've been doing it for 13 years. What's your aspirations for the business? Do you see much changing in the future, whether that's short term or
selling
long?
it for a couple of million and moving to Barbados? No, I'm only joking.
Well, no,
you know what? I think so. We've made a very conscious decision over the years to not grow massively. And sometimes when I talk to people about this, I get the kind of the quizzical, well, why would you do that look? But first and foremost, when we started off, we both had little children. My two were 3 and 5. Lisa's were kind of 4 and 7, I think. So we worked around school hours, and it was a very conscious choice that I didn't want to have nannies and childminders. I wanted to be there as my kids. And my husband's great, he's around, but he's got quite a full-on job, so they were my responsibility. And then as they've got older, obviously that changes, but I still like being here for them. So I've always put my family first, and business kind of comes a close second, but second. So I've never wanted to grow beyond what we can cope with. And we love delivering the work. I didn't want to become a people manager. I didn't want to just become the business owner, because I love doing stuff like this. I love training people. I love talking to people about what we do. So actually our goal is kind of, let's just keep it going as is, because we do quite well out of it, and we absolutely love what we do. And I'm now of that age bracket where my parents need me a bit more. So I'm kind of, I think it's called the sandwich generation, where you still got kids that need you and you've got parents that need a bit more support. So yeah, I think certainly for the sort of short term, so for the next 3 to 5 years, as we are, I'm loving what I'm doing, and I feel quite privileged to be able to say that, because I know there's not a lot of people in the world who do genuinely love what they do.
And then the other topic that we always come across when we're either talking with amongst ourselves or with others is the topic of either retirement or slowing down, or do you ever see yourself retiring? Do you see an end to your involvement in the business, or does that not really register in your thoughts?
So yeah, that's a really interesting question. So kind of 2 things I can answer on that. So one, I've taken on a voluntary role this year. So it's kind of 1 half day, maybe sort of eking into 1 day a week. I volunteer for Riding for the Disabled at a centre that's near me. I used to be really into horses when I was younger. Don't particularly want to ride now, but I stumbled across this volunteer opportunity, and I just love it. So I'm there, and I get the horses in from the field, groom them, tack them up, and then work with the disabled kids that come along to learn to ride. It's the most incredible place and the most rewarding morning. I love it every time I go. So I'd like to do more of that. So maybe as I get older, and as maybe business changes, perhaps I'll volunteer more. I can't ever imagine myself doing nothing, and I can't ever imagine myself doing no work in the way that I'm working now. But I'm really conscious that digital marketing is becoming quite a young game. So my lovely teenagers, will tease me about being on Snapchat and TikTok. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be on it, but I know that that's a marketing platform for people. There's something called Be Real, which has recently become a bit of a phenomenon with young people. So, and a lot of people I work for, Vets for Pets is a great example, huge business. They've got over 400 veterinary surgeries across the UK. Their marketing team are all young enough to be my kids, which is just hilarious. So I'm very conscious of the marketing world is, there's lots of young people kind of coming up through the ranks. So yeah, who knows, but I'll never do nothing. I'm not the type of person to kind of switch off completely. And I love learning as well.
So I think that's really an interesting point. Just out of interest, I think Kaya may have been stalking you, because apparently your eldest shares his birthday with her.
Well, you said it was his birthday on Monday.
Yes, I did
It's
say.
mine as
Happy
well.
birthday to you as well. Great
you.
day to be born.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the age thing of marketeers, because so my kids are a bit older than yours. My youngest is 18, my oldest is 31. And the 31-year-old can just about communicate in a way that I recognise as valid to me, but the 18-year-old can't. And I don't know, especially with something like vets require people to have pets. And for people to have pets, generally, I would guess they're a bit older. So I wonder how the youngsters can adapt to communicating with people who are an older generation.
And actually the vets is another really good example of that. So they've got a really young team, and the way I work with them has obviously, changed over the years. And they were kind of, they've been owned by Pets at Home for some time, but their departments have very much merged in the last couple of years. So they've got these massive marketing departments. So Lisa and I often think, I don't know why they need us. They've got about, 54 people working there, twiddling their thumbs, who knows. But I think what they get from us is that experience and that voice of, not a 20-year-old, and the content that we create for them, I think, reflects their audience. And that's something I'll talk about in a minute when we come to talk about the marketing. So important to know who you're talking to. So if everyone in marketing is really young, my kids, they don't text me in proper sentences. I'm sure anyone here who's got teenage kids, it's, I'll send them, practically an essay, and they'll reply with K. I'm like, oh, brilliant. Good chatting. I think the age thing's a really interesting one. And don't get me wrong, I don't have an issue with being, I'm 46. I've got no issue with being that age and getting older. But I do think marketing is definitely, the platforms that are becoming more popular are probably aimed at the younger audience, but then not every product and service is looking for younger people. So
has anyone got any questions for Claire so far? Because we'll move on to picking your brains a little bit, and you
please do,
giving us an overview. But before we do that, anyone got any questions? Ruby, good morning.
Good morning. Hi Claire.
Hi Ruby, nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you. I just had a quick question. What do you think of TikTok as a marketing platform?
So it completely depends on what you're trying to market. So what's your business, Ruby?
I'm an accountant.
Okay.
So it's more traditional self-assessment, etc. Business account. So I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah. I think so what I was going to, one thing I was going to say when we kind of got to the brain picking bit is, the first thing I always ask a new client, anyone I'm working with, is, who is your audience? That determines what you're doing for your marketing.
Yeah.
There's nothing to say that an accountant can't create a fun message for TikTok. I mean, TikTok is all about videos, fun, it's much more light-hearted than, say, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Is your audience, do the people you want to target hang out on TikTok? Question one. And then the second question with something like TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram even, is, do you have the time to create these really cool videos? Because they're not created instantly and overnight. They take quite some time to put them together for them to be slick. The ones where you see people jumping from, one outfit to another, or any business could adapt that to their message, but they honestly, they are hours in the making. So I think that's another thing to consider. And my mantra is always, it's better to do one or two platforms really, really well than try to be on everything and do it a little bit half-heartedly.
Yeah, I guess it's always with TikTok, the only positive that I find that it has is just the reach, like the number of people that one post can get to. So I've been toying around with whether to even dabble in it, because I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, and I've been doing loads on Instagram, reels and posts, etc. And they do really well, and I get loads and loads of clients. But it's sort of like, what's that next step? Is TikTok
and I think
place to be?
Yeah, and with reach, reach is all good and well if it's reaching potential customers, but you could have a massive reach on a post, but it's not, you know, I mean, I've got a client at the moment, for example, who's doing email marketing. So, you know, quite dry, nothing very exciting. And their click-through rate is enormous, but it's not converting into business. So my question to them is, so they get really excited, like, oh, wow, look, we've had, you know, X number of thousand people click through today. I'm like, yeah, and what does that mean? If you're not getting any business from it, it's just numbers.
Yeah, so definitely. Thank you, Claire.
That's okay.
Does anyone else have any questions, or should we? Yeah, James, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick one, Claire. I was just wondering, given the sort of space you operate in, it changes quite quickly. So even just like Andrew sort of introduced me to Google My Business stuff, and I found that's been really successful for my business, probably the most successful one, and I've used it in the shortest space of time as well. But even in the short space I've been using it, it's changed, and it's now done. I don't even know what the correct terminology is, but it's done through it's done through Google search as opposed to having the page, I think. Anyway.
I know exactly what you mean. It has,
obviously social media platforms is quite challenging. There's lots of sort of nuances and changes that are not quite often advertised. You have to be a real SME within each of the things to understand the sort of differences, and just little things like LinkedIn offered a stories feature about a year ago, and then they removed it actually that was quite good for me. But so it's just curious how you stay on top of all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. A lot of the social media platforms will make changes and they make no noise about it at all. So I think the way that I keep up to date with it, I'm a member of a group which the sole function of that group is to keep people like me completely up to date. So their business model is what's new in the social media digital marketing world. So I just, you know, pay a monthly fee to be a part of that group. So I get the up-to-date information, which is brilliant. And I think because we use the platform so often, we see the changes. So with clients that work with us, we'll always pass those changes on. And I'll pop in the chat a link to my website, and we try to blog about it, and we'll share on our socials any changes we see, because, you know, we're not about just keeping those changes secret so people don't know. So for example, the Google business changes recently, we did quite a lengthy blog on that, because a lot of profiles actually got suspended because they were suddenly in breach of the new rules, which no one knew what the new rules were because Google hadn't shared them widely. So did that happen? Did that happen to you, David? I saw a thumbs up. Yeah. Are you back online now?
Yeah, it was actually this business behind me, the holiday rental that we've got. It was on Google Maps, and we were getting, you know, 20,000 views a month for people wanting to book, you know, places in the Cotswolds. And then Google Maps, it just dropped off, and it said, oh, your account's been suspended. And we were like, oh, what have we done? It took us about 5 or 6 weeks to fix it. It was a real pain.
And the problem with that is that Google suspended so many at one time that then of course there was a backlog for checking them. It was absolute chaos. So things like that we've kind of published on our blog how to avoid a suspension now with the new rules, but also what to do if it happens. And you know what, James, there are times when I'll be running a training session and I'll go onto Instagram and I'll say, right, let's look at where such and such is, and it's literally changed overnight. And I'll just hold my hands up and say, you know, I'm only human. I can't keep up with every single change. But yeah, so we've got ways of keeping on top of it.
Okay.
But it's the same. I know we've had conversations, James, but it's the same when it comes to SEO. I mean, my advice for stuff like that is don't chase the algorithms, because you spend too much time as a business owner trying to go. And I've seen, I don't know if you've seen it, Claire, there's somebody did a 50-page report on the latest LinkedIn changes of the optimum time to post, how long, how many hashtags. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Until it's not, until it changes.
Because one of the things is these platforms never actually publish their rules.
No.
You know, Google don't tell you how to rank.
No.
They can give you advice, but they never say this is what you need to do. And the same with Facebook and TikTok, and they don't tell you. So any advice you see is someone's interpretation of what happens when they post. Yeah. That's all it is. So the advice always to businesses is just be honest and post content that your users want.
Yeah, that's perfect advice. And we always say, just be authentic. Don't try to be something you're not. and try to be consistent. So whether that consistency, I mean, I've got a client who posts fairly consistently once a week on LinkedIn, but it's really, really good, well thought out content. So she gets good reach, good engagement, and good conversion for her services. Whereas there are other clients who will try and post 4 times 1 week, then they'll go quiet for a month and then they'll be back. And that's not a great way of doing it. So it's consistency. And as I said earlier, it's not about being unrealistic about what time you've got for your marketing. And some of the changes to the social media platforms don't really matter. So it doesn't matter that you're not up to date with them, because if one small thing's changed, so again, I say to businesses, try not to tie yourself in knots keeping up with it, because it's ever changing.
Authentic is something that's been around now for quite a while, and it seems to resonate with customers and, you know, modern business owners, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, authenticity always brings up that conundrum. Do I post as me? Do I post as my business? How do I get the balance? How do I keep, in effect, some of my life private, because I like to keep, you know, a degree of separation between private life and business life. And some of the platforms make that easier than others. You know, what's the latest thinking on personal pages, business pages, maybe a fake personal page to be authentic as a business? How does it all work?
So Facebook and Instagram allow you to choose between them. So you can, on Facebook, you will have a personal Facebook account, and then you can have a business page or a community page or a personality. So whatever fits or a group that fits your business. And Instagram, you can have a business account or a personal account. So for example, on Instagram, my personal account is private. So if you search for me on Instagram, you would see my profile picture, but you wouldn't see any of my content, because that's where I've got, you know, friends and family that are, you know, for me, kind of, you know, fairly farly flung around the world, where I keep in touch with them. That's not somewhere that I would make business connections. My 1 to 3 account on Instagram is a business account, completely open, and we do, you know, we share fun stuff. So for example, you know, Lisa and we're best mates, so we socialized together. It was her birthday last month. We went into London and had a lovely time, and we'll post a picture of us having a good time, because people like the fact that we're friends. That's our story. And that's a big part of why we've been successful in business, because people have really tuned into that story, as well as, you know, delivering a good service to people. It kind of piques people's interest. But I'm quite private in my personal life, so I don't sort of accept business connections on my private account, if that makes sense. So, you know, I definitely keep a distinction, but I think personality and showing who you really are is important in any business, because there are lots of other social media people. There's lots of other photographers and wealth managers and accountants. People want to work with us because they like us. And, you know, I've worked with people in the past where we haven't gelled, and that's fine. They go and find someone else who's more of a personality fit for them. So I strongly believe that sharing some personality, whether that's with, so Lisa and I meet once a month, and we call it our board walks. We've got 3 dogs between us, and we go for a nice long walk and talk about the business. We have our best ideas when we're doing that. So we'll share pictures of that on occasion. And people like that. They like to see that we're a bit different. We're not sort of, you know, just stuck in front of our screen. And
that account that you post to, is that called 123? Is it called Claire? Is it called Lisa?
No, it's called so all of our business accounts are at 123 Marketing.
Right.
But we post, we don't hide behind the business brand. So as individuals, we're very visible in the posts, but it's not my name, it's the business name that's kind of the handle.
Philip, you're one of our most prolific social media users. Twitter's your main platform still, isn't it?
Up until about a week or 10 days ago, I would say, yeah. I don't know, yeah, I mean, I've just been listening to Claire. Claire's just basically reiterated everything I've said over the course of the few months that we've been talking about social media.
Yeah,
it's all about you. So you know, me and you, Andy, have spoken about Instagram before. You know, I got fed up with that because I found it a chore to sit there and think, right, what should I write? What should I post? You know, I'm a photographer. I should be using it all the time. But when it got to the point where I thought, I don't want to do this, I stopped, because it doesn't get me any work. It was just a case of having a presence there. And same with Facebook. I mean, I only still have a Facebook account, so I can occasionally use the marketplace. Otherwise, that would be gone. And Twitter's, you know, since he's decided to ruin it over the last 2 weeks, my reach has gone, you know, the 2,500 followers I've got, you know, I'm doing a lot of the non-league football posting and everything. I'd be getting a lot of engagement. I can put a post up now and nobody will see it, and I don't know why. So I'm just not, and again, Twitter doesn't really get me work. It's more about engaging with other photographers. So I've just lost interest in it at the minute. So it's also why I put a tweet out a while ago, actually, for other photographers to say, you've got to build your email lists. You need people's details so you can stay in contact with them regardless of what happens to social media. And all I got was a barrage of other photographers who, in all honesty, aren't fully fledged professionals, shall I say. They kind of think they're professionals, but they do it because they've got a camera and they've got some spare time. And all they kept saying to me is, well, I get all my work through Instagram and I deal with all my clients. I said, well, no, that's advertising. That's not keeping in touch with people and saying, hey, this is some recent work I've just done, you know, and all that kind of stuff. I said, and how do you nurture your leads? And all their answer was, well, I do it all through DMs. Well, that's not lead nurturing. If Instagram decided to switch off tomorrow, you're telling me that your business ends. You need to work out ways, because otherwise, and in all honesty, I'm at the point where 40 on Sunday, I can't be bothered to learn another social platform. People keep saying, oh, Twitter's dead, but I'm moving over to this one. I can't be bothered. I'm not going to now move to another one and try and find another 2,000 followers and do all of that. If Twitter dies, and I'm kind of saying thank you very much for the 15 years I've been with you, but that will do me. And you know, you just got to find other ways to market your business and keep in contact with people. You can't keep jumping to other social platforms just because they're the one to be on. You know, if TikTok will work for you and the audience is there, use it. If you can't see the audience there, forget it exists. Don't worry about it. You know, it's irrelevant to you.
And I always tell people I work with, it's not about just digital. I think it's really important not to forget. I mean, obviously this kind of thing where you just have a discussion, meeting up with people in person, you know, I know a lot of people still haven't got back to that after, you know, the COVID era, but there's nothing better than just, you know, being in a room with people. And I always say to people, see social media and digital marketing, it's as much about, as you said, Philip, you know, connecting with other people in your field of work, getting enthusiasm and inspiration from them. But yeah, email marketing, hugely important. And I mentioned at the beginning, I was the first agency I worked with, there was a direct mail department. I've gone back to advising some clients to do some hard copy stuff. It's so rare to get something nice in the post. A variety is so important, so important.
And you also have to remember that if you want to build an audience on these places, not just post and hope that somebody phones you up, if you want to build an audience, the best way to build an audience to start with is to actually engage with other people's posts. So you have to dedicate time to that. It's not about you posting once a day or twice a day or any of that stuff and hoping the algorithm is going to pick you up and you're going to gain followers. You actually have to build the relationships with people. So on Twitter, I have built some good relationships because I engage with their stuff and then they engage with mine and then we DM each other. And from that, I've met plenty of photographers for coffee and all sorts of things because I've taken the time to put the effort in. And if you can't be bothered and you have to hold your hands up first off and say, that's not for me and just not do it, because it takes a lot of time to build that. Like we're sitting here now for an hour and a half, we're building relationships. You have to take that and do that on social media. You have to comment on people's stuff, send them messages, get to know them personally. And you have to do that thousands of times. And it's just, it's hard work. Social media is hard work.
It is hard work. And I think it's really important as well, not to think of social media as a sales tool. I don't see it as a sales channel. I see it as a networking think of it as online networking. As the primary use of it. Yes, you might get some sales. So for example, our business, if we get it digitally, which we do get some through on our online stuff, is probably 90% through our Google business listing, because we've optimized it well. We post content to it. People will search for, social media training Buckinghamshire, for example, or social media training near me, and we will come up generally quite well in the search results geographically. So we've had loads of work. We found you through Google. The odd Facebook thing, certainly nothing that I know of from Instagram, but I enjoy Instagram. I like chatting to people I've got to know on Instagram, and just building those connections. And and then you occasionally do meet people at events. You go, oh, we've chatted on Instagram. To me, that's what it's all about. But yeah, it's really time consuming. So as someone who's runs their own business, you need to be realistic about what time you're going to have. So don't say, right, I'm going to go on every single platform I've ever heard of, because even if you slept an hour a day, there's no way you would keep up with it.
So
this is.
Go on, Claire.
This is really thought-provoking and interesting, Claire, because one of the things that I've discovered through sort of researching how best to reach out to my target audience, which, to be honest, are middle-aged to older ladies initially for the golf tour. I've met somebody who runs a very successful Facebook page called the Ladies Golf Lounge, and she's got 9,500 active members on that site. So I've already agreed with her that she's happy to pin my posts to her page to really sort of build the profile. But now I'm thinking, how do I direct traffic back to me? How do I become a thing in my own right? And how do I deal with, hopefully, the large amount of interest that will come as a result of that, if it is all about the relationship and getting back to people and nurturing. I'm starting to worry I might drown if I do that.
So Philip mentioned that the email list is the sort of overarching advice still to be, use whatever platform is most appropriate to find your audience, but drive them somewhere where you can build a list and do whatever you need to do to encourage them. I don't know, 2 years ago it was definitely to offer some kind of giveaway. There was a name for it. I can't remember what the terminology was.
Lead magnet.
Lead magnet. Thank you, David. Is that still the case? Use whatever platform, drive people with some value to give you their name and email address.
Yeah, I think to a degree that's true. I mean, Instagram, for example, is an interesting one, because from an Instagram grid post, you can't link anywhere. So the only place you can link back to a website or a sign up on LinkedIn is from the link in your biography. So if you use Insta, you might have seen in some captions, for more information, see link in bio. So that's quite a common little term.
Sorry, is that LinkedIn or Insta? Did you say?
Instagram, yeah. So Instagram is notoriously not a good platform for driving traffic to your website, for example, because it takes a bit more effort from the user, and that sounds terrible. But if you've got your phone, if someone has to read something, think, oh, okay, I need to go to the bio, so let's click there, and then let me click then on the bio link, and it might be a link tree. So I know I need to find the sign up. People just can't be bothered to do it. We're all quite lazy when it comes to just that scroll mentality. So Instagram is more about brand awareness, personality, fun. But yeah, LinkedIn, Facebook, put a hot link in. It's really easy then for someone to go and read more. So don't do the whole, clickbait where you tease someone what you might be telling them. Give them the information in the post so that it's, what they want to find out is on that Facebook post, on that LinkedIn post. But there's always a link to find out more, or to sign up, or to offer something for free. A client of mine, they're a car leasing company, recently did just a really small local exhibition in Oxford. They just had a stand, pull-up banner, and they offered a track day as a prize. Got loads of people to sign up to the list, and now we're able to nurture them. So sorry, long-winded answer. Yes, get people to sign up, get people to go to your website, but that's not what it's all about, because that brand awareness and personality is, on a part of being as important.
Okay. Sheila's joined us. Good morning, Sheila. I don't know if you can still hear us, can you?
Sorry, I was so late. I was at another meeting. Nice to meet you, Claire.
Hi there, Sheila. Nice to meet you.
Very interesting what I've heard so far.
Oh, thank
Yes,
Can I
you.
just ask a quick question? What you were saying about links? So in LinkedIn, I heard that you're not supposed to put links in your post, and you're supposed to put them in the messaging underneath.
Yeah.
So if you've covered that already, I'm sorry. But,
No, we haven't, and that's a really good question. Actually, this goes back to something Andrew was saying about not trying to worry too much about the algorithms. And so, yes,
Right,
that's something that absolutely has been said about LinkedIn, Facebook. The algorithms prefer content that stays within their platform because they don't want you to be sending people away. I've done a bit of an experiment on this with a couple of clients. I saw maybe a 0.2% change in reach figures if we added links or not. So it wasn't massively scientific, but if you've got every single post and you're doing a one sentence and then a link to send people away, yeah, that's not great practice. But if you have a genuinely interesting piece of content which is far too long for a LinkedIn post, then yeah, my philosophy is do what you need to do to get your message across. And I love what Andrew said about not worrying too much about the algorithms, because no one really knows what they are. They change them every 5 minutes
exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, and I quite like having the link in the body of the text anyway, rather than them having to go to a message or whatever underneath.
And you might have noticed if you're a LinkedIn user, if you're a regular user, you might have noticed certainly this year, posts on LinkedIn are getting longer. So I think more people are worrying less about linking and just getting the information across. If they've got something to say, just say it. And I really like that way of doing it as well, so that you don't read, one paragraph and have to link here to read the rest. If it's just a post, if it's not something that needs a sign up or something like that.
Cool. Thank you.
It's okay.
Philip, I'm going to get you to trigger this conversation again, because you've probably got the most experience of it recently, at least. But once you have a list, what do you do with it?
So the way I've started to gain a list is, and I say a list, I try to generate a list of people basically interested in me and what I do. So, for example, I do it on LinkedIn I filter down who I want to connect with and who I'd like to send information to. I'll send them a personalized request. When they accept it, then I'll say thanks for that, and then say something else to them. Then I'll maybe wait a few days and I'll send something like, hey, just a quick one. I'd love to send you my latest portfolio and my rates, just in case you need it, because I tend to connect with marketing professionals, etc., that might need a photographer. And I'll just ping me your email address and I'll send it across. And I get a good response. I get people saying, yeah, that'd be great, with an email address, because that's all they've got to do. They've just got to put their email address in the chat box. They don't need to do anything else. They don't need to go click anything, download a free PDF, none of that rubbish. They just give me their email address. So then I can send them a personalized email, maybe tailor it to them in terms of what I'm sending. But I can say, thanks for your email address, thanks for connecting, hope you're well. Here's my link to my portfolio, my latest portfolio. Here's my rates, etc., etc. And I finish with, if you or a client needs a photographer in the near future, I'd love to have a chat and a link to schedule a call if they need to. And that's it. And now I've got that person's contact details. I've been friendly. I'm starting to build the relationship. So now if I do a piece of work that I think might be relevant, I can ping them an email. Now, it's not necessarily building a list of 10,000 people where they're all getting the same email, but it's, for the size of business I operate, it's building relationships, as we've talked about. And it can be as little as 20 people. But if those 20 people are highly targeted and relevant, then I can, throughout the year, send them a little, hey, I've just done this job. It's in your sector, or it's relevant to you, or any of that kind of stuff. And I can send it personally. Now, so I'm not talking about building a necessary MailChimp list of tens of thousands of people, because that doesn't suit me anyway. I'm just talking about connecting. And then also, because I've done that, they're more likely to sort of like one of my LinkedIn posts or comment on it, because I've built that relationship in the messages. I've also sent them an email. From that, I've had a few calls recently with people that want some work doing possibly at the beginning of next year. So now I've got an email address to say, hey, I'm just touching base. How are you? Where are you with the budget for this job you were talking about? Do you want to have another call with it? and it's friendly. They're not going to hit the spam button or any of that stuff. So, but it's taking that away from LinkedIn to mean if LinkedIn died tomorrow, I've got those email addresses. So that work isn't going to disappear for me. That potential work is there. So, but I've instantly got that email address. So I now have that. They're in my CRM. I know who the person is. I can now like their posts on some social platforms, because then it will just trigger to them, oh, that's Phil. Yeah, we've had a conversation. But it's hard and it's slow. It's not, that's the thing. It's not a LinkedIn post that says, hey, buy my stuff, and hope that people phone you up. It's hard and it's a long slog. So it works.
I think what you've described is a very kind of personalized, hands-on approach to finding the people, communicating with them. You're the man with a tool for all occasions, and the only tool you've mentioned, I think, is to store this information that you've collected so that you can somehow, you know, keep track of stuff, and then you pick up a manual process again to say, I've got 2 or 3 that I can think of that I should share this with, and it becomes manual again. Is that?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, look, you can, I do use tools to automate some of this stuff. You don't have to. It depends on how little or how much you want to do with it yourself. I mean, and the size of your business. You can certainly find tools to automate a lot of this stuff, but you still need to make it personal. There's no point in automating stuff that actually people can look at that and say, hey, that's really generic. I get it all the time on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, my name is Philip J.A. Benton, and the J.A. is in the first name box. And I get DMs all the time, hey, Philip J.A. So it's automated because they haven't taken the J.A. out, you know, so I instantly ignore the message. So you need to be clever when you do this stuff. So you need to make sure that somebody looks at that and thinks, hey, a human has written this.
And just to give you an example of something we did recently, which worked really well. So the Google business changes that I mentioned earlier, we emailed so we have a MailChimp, we use MailChimp to kind of keep our email list. And we've only got 300 or 400 people on there, so it's not massive. People we've worked with over the years, people we've connected with. So we did email everyone with a link to that blog saying, this is quite, you know, we've seen real disruption with this, have a read. Let us know if you need any help, basically, it was the basic message. But then we handpicked 25-ish people to email personally from our inboxes to say, you're going to get this from MailChimp, but we just wanted to give you an extra heads up. We know that you use Google Business, don't, you know, make it more personal. And that went down really well with people because they were just like, oh, thanks so much. Yes, we got suspended last week. What a nightmare. We didn't know how to do it. Now I do. So it's about, as Philip said, yes, using the automated tools and, you know, and the big guns like MailChimp to get it out there and it looks pretty and there's nice images. But also just pick up the phone occasionally. My phone never rings. And again, you know, I keep talking about age. You're going to think I've got an issue with age. I haven't. I remember when the phone rang all the time. And the second PR agency I worked for, on a Friday, the boss didn't let us use email. She was like, no, you're going to pick up the phone. You're going to talk to the journalists. You're going to talk to clients. And that's really stuck with me because just occasionally picking up the phone and having a chat with someone, that connection is brilliant. And, you know, my kids don't even know how to talk on the phone. They hold their phones really strangely. Have you ever noticed that with young people? They kind of don't hold, anyway, it's very bizarre. Yeah. Or like my kids kind of hold it there, like it's going to bite them. I'm like, you're so weird.
They've got it on
So
loudspeaker.
kind of go a little bit old school is what is always part of my advice. Yeah, try not to be too clever. Pick the phone up.
That's quite interesting. So you've talked about a couple of old school methods, pick up the phone and some traditional sort of postal.
Yeah, it's about having a mix. And again, as Philip said, if LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook all died tomorrow, which they could just disappear, what would happen? If you've got no backup, then
but this comes down to what you said earlier, Claire, about the youngsters and, you know, working with a pet brand, is that I know what I do. I've worked in IT now for over 30 years. Building a website is no different from some of the stuff I did 30 years ago. It's frames differently, but behind the scenes, it still works in the same structure. And the same with you, Andy. You know, technology's moved on since first window, but it hasn't really. And the same with marketing. Marketing is still marketing. It's just the platform's changing.
Yeah.
So all of that experience of what we have in terms of, same with photography. We've got digital cameras now, we had film cameras.
Yeah.
But taking it, shutter speed, aperture, you know, they're all the same.
Mm.
And it's that experience that helps. Is just make sure you have a mix of everything and understand what marketing actually is.
Mm.
I have to say what you were saying, Claire, about, and what Andrew's just saying about having a mix. I think, yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think in this age where you can mass communicate with people, and I'm on the receiving end of emails that haven't been written to me, but have been written to the masses. So I spend a lot of time, most of my time is done through internal marketing to my existing clients. And I find very specific ways to engage with them personally. And I run trackers on the conversations I have with my existing clients to just pick up on nuances that would be relevant to them. So then I'm able to focus my business to them specifically, because I offered a very sort of tailored service. But it's time consuming, but it's still the best way to engage with my clients. And actually, given what I do as well as a financial advisor, I understand that if you're mass communicating with people about tax year end or something like that, that is unappreciated. You know, that people don't want that, whereas what they want is specific advice tailored to them, which is what we promised them on the way in. But I often think that the way I run my business, I still do handwritten letters, a lot of them as well, and I think they're a really effective way in my line of work as well, and I really enjoy that. I find no joy or value from LinkedIn. And then if people want to find me, I find Google business pages being the most successful way of them actually coming to me for business. But in terms of reminding people what I do, LinkedIn is that one for sort of valued sort of posts to talk about, you know, just to say, just as a reminder that I exist out there. But I think it's really interesting what you're saying. And I've always been tempted to have someone kind of manage it all for you. But then I think that I kind of lose that bit, which is, because people have a personal relationship with me, and all my clients have a personal relationship with me, and then you kind of water that down and lose that a little bit. And it's like you say, there's thousands of financial advisors out there all offering exactly the same thing, but it's their engagement with their finances that's the nuance that they're looking for. So as time consuming as it is, it's actually the most enjoyable part of my job as well, which is writing to them. You know, now it's Christmas card season at the moment, and you just sort of going through everything, your trackers and everything like that, to say, well, how can I write a Christmas card that if I received this and I read it, does it feel like I'm being spoken to by that person there, not just a sort of generic message as well? So that's what's worked for me, but it's getting increasingly more time consuming as time goes on.
And you're so right. So the automation and having some of it, you know, the easier way of marketing, the quicker way of marketing is important, because it is so time consuming. But just nurturing, even if it's just a handful of contacts, you know, we often do it with people we've worked with in the past. And because a lot of our work will maybe work with someone for 3 to 6 months, and then they feel like they're confident with what they're doing. So then that kind of working relationship naturally comes to an end, but perhaps they'll come back for a quarterly review. But we keep in touch with those people if there's anything new, or if we start offering something different. You know, we've had clients in the past say, well, do you know anyone that can give us any training on email marketing? And we're like, well, we can do that. So clearly we haven't been putting that message across what else we do. You know, you might do one thing for a client, but do they know what else is in your toolbox? And it's that personal communication, which I think really helps with that. And just planning your time a bit. So again, I say to people, try and have a morning or an afternoon or even an hour a week where you're fully focused on your marketing, even if it's saying, right, I haven't got time to do that this week, but on Monday, I'm going to send some, you know, little postcards out to these 5 clients, or whatever it might be. But have that as a commitment in your diary, as if it were a meeting. I think that's so important, not to see marketing as an afterthought.
Yeah, I did. I nicked the title from my kids get a half an hour at school called Golden Time, which is somewhere between playtime and something else. I don't know, they get to just doss around and do whatever they want. Anyway, so I just nicked the phrase, but every day I stick 30 minutes of golden time in the diary, which is you've got to go through your client bank and find something specific and unique to that client that you can advise them on, whether it's a change in the tax laws or whatever it is. But it's quite good. But out the blue, you're then engaging with your clients, whether it's just rebalancing their portfolios, just advising them on some changes. Maybe there's been an update to NHS pensions, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea, just to have that committed time. Yeah, that's a really good way of doing it. And then it doesn't feel too overwhelming, does it?
No, it doesn't. I think it just becomes a bit of sort of muscle memory that the first thing you do is just pick up the phone, even if it's just to say hello to someone because you haven't spoken to them in a while. Just to, you know, just small things. But for me, yeah, I think that just works really well, just because I am offering that personalized angle to what I do. And the better I know my clients, the more they're going to remind me. But also, it's about, for me, I'm trying to engage with my clients in a way so they feel encouraged to talk about their finances, and it's not something they put at the bottom third of their in tray, which I understand is what people do with their finances. So, but there we go.
Wow, there's a lot to think about. Sheila, I know you joined late. Do you want to just first and foremost tell Claire briefly what you do?
I wondered what you were going to do there. I thought you were going to ask me to contribute my social media magnificence.
Well, no, and then I was just going to ask you what you do social media wise these days.
Oh, my head is spinning with it. Oh, it spins with it. I'll do the social media bit first. So I do get, James said he doesn't, but I get a lot out of LinkedIn. And that is a platform that is working for me. And I get quite a lot of engagement in my posts now, and not just the group that I post with, but yeah, so if the group, I'm in a bit of a bubble at the moment, which I'm thinking of coming out of, but it certainly has enabled other people to notice my posts, and I get more engagement now from people that aren't in that bubble, so which is perfect. And I've had a few clients from LinkedIn as well. I post what I put on. What I do is Claire, is I put what I put on LinkedIn, I then put on Facebook and Instagram. So I put the same, I just share the same posts across the board. I'm on Google Business, but I'm not sure if I'm using it in the right way. So James, I'm seeing you next Monday. I might have to pick your brain on that. So yes, but I post every day mostly.
I picked Andrew's brain on it.
I'll do.
All routes lead back to Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah, recycled pickings, I'm afraid.
So
I was interested there to hear about the golden time, putting 1 hour a week aside. I think my head is spinning with so many things at the moment, which is exciting, but also I'm tending to not be too focused. So that golden time, I think I need to take that on board. So Claire, I'm Sheila. I run, well, it's my own business, The Primal Zone. I'm a health and wellness coach, Undercover Fitness as well, and I'm an NLP practitioner. Work with midlifers, mostly men, but I am working in the corporate, moving into the corporate area now. And actually I had some exciting news yesterday. I've been asked to be on the advisory board for Hunter and Gather, which are collagen products and natural condiments, like with no sugars in, or completely natural products. I've been using their stuff for a long time, and they've just had investments, and they're on Holland and Barrett shelves and Waitrose, and yeah, they're going to be really, really big. And they've asked me to be on their advisory board. So because I'm an oldie and they haven't got any oldies.
How does that benefit you and your business?
Well, I'll be on their website as part of their advisory board with the link through to my website. It means I can shout about it a lot, actually, because they are a really good brand that's growing, and it's totally in alignment. They're ancestral products. So it really is. They could ask anybody else, but they've asked me to be one of them. So one of 6.
Brilliant.
So
I didn't mean to do you down. I was just trying to.
You never do me down, Andy. It's fine.
So the reason this takes us neatly back to the first question Claire told us she always asks people, who says, who is your audience? Because I suspect the reason that Sheila is so successful on LinkedIn is her audience is middle-aged, usually a bit overweight men, or unhealthy, unfit men who don't lead a great lifestyle.
Sad men. I work with women as well, but lately my clientele has been mostly men, aged between 45 and my eldest at the moment is 62. So yeah, and they tend to be execs. So yeah, they either have their own businesses or they're working, they're director level. Not that it matters what they do, I'll have them anyway.
And Andrew, just to round things a little bit, you I've seen you posting on LinkedIn pretty regularly, and you're obviously a fan and advocate, dare I say, expert in the Google side of things, Google Local, Google My Business. What's your philosophy towards promoting your business, I suppose?
I mean, I've experimented on all the social media platforms. I've just deleted my Facebook page for my business because it was a waste of time. It wasn't the right platform for me. So I've gone. I'm a B2B person, so I'm going on LinkedIn. That's the way I'm working at the moment. Is to really focus on where I believe my clients are.
Where did you say you cancelled, Andrew? Which platform?
My Facebook page, my business Facebook page.
Yeah, mine's like tumbleweed.
Well, I mean, Claire probably know, but the figure I've always seen is the reach of a Facebook page is less than 1%.
You're on mute, Claire.
That you're doing well, and that's a bit depressing, isn't it? If 1%, and I think the worst thing you can do is have platforms that are live but empty. So if you're not using it, delete it. If you're not getting any benefit from it, delete it. It's much worse for your business brand to have sedentary platforms. You know, I had a client and they asked me why I'd deactivated their Twitter, and I said, well, because you haven't posted on it since 2017, so it makes you look like your business, it doesn't exist anymore. Oh yeah, okay, that's fine.
But one of the scary things is one of my web design clients has signed up with a well-known UK-based social media agency, and they're B2B, their equipment for kitchens, and they've just created them an Instagram account and a Facebook page. And I was like, what? I mean, their clients are, they're either going to be engineers who are installing the stuff, or they're going to be things like facility managers, for big companies, because they're big industrial kitchens, and they're going to find out. They're going to go on Facebook to find out about it. Really?
I think there's still this school of thought with some marketing agencies, and I come across this where, well, speaking frankly, they charge a fortune, so they feel they have to be doing everything. So I did some work at middle of this year with a fascinating company that's so niche. They provide irrigation, nutrient nitrate reports for new developments, all about irrigation and wetlands and blah blah blah. Anyway, something, I mean, I literally had never heard of this as a thing. And he was like, I've been told I need a Facebook page, I've been told I need this, I've been told I need that. I'm like, right, no, you don't need any of it. Let's go back to basics again. It was that, who is your audience question? Who are you trying to talk to? And actually what we ended up coming to the conclusion, all we've done is we've worked with an agency who is a Google AdWords specialist, because there was huge searching for this particular keyword, but there was no one else advertising for this product. He's been inundated with work since these ads launched. Now, I could have probably easily got a really decent monthly fee out of this guy because he thought he needed it all. And sadly, I think that's what a lot of agencies still do. So they'll set it up and won't think about the longer term, won't think about the audience. So I spend a lot of my working time telling people, oh no, don't do that. That's not right. You know, so actually kind of sometimes it feels like, well, I'm turning work away, but I would rather do that and then be successful, because then they'll come back to me.
I mean, I've worked with this client now for about a year, and actually the MD is a sort of distant relative of mine. And I saw the audit report that this social media agency had done, and I was just shocked. And if I said the name of the agency, you'd probably know them because they're well known in the UK. But to create a Facebook page for a B2B where the target audience is quite high up in the company is just, like you say, it's just justifying their fee.
Yeah, and it's just completely pointless, isn't it?
Yeah. And then they talked about possibility of then extending out to Facebook ads.
It's another hole you can pour money down.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I can something like what Sheila does, where it's more B2C. So you're searching out individuals. Then I mean, I'm not a fan of Facebook in itself, but you could then justify Facebook as a platform. Same with, you know, any B2C business, you could say Facebook is an option. My other half does massage. Facebook does really well for her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
any B2B, absolutely not now. Facebook is just, and it's such hard work to build any following on Facebook now. So anyone here that maybe uses Facebook, I'm sure you've seen reach and engagement just absolutely go through the floor. So yeah, it's very interesting. We could literally talk about it all day, I think, couldn't we?
Can I ask a question then, please? Because you were saying earlier about, well, a few minutes ago, about removing any pages we're not using. So the reason I set up my Primal Zone business page on Facebook is because at the time I was in another business which was completely removed from it, and I had to keep my head beneath the parapet with regards to the new business. So I set that up, and then under that, I've now got a closed group as well. So if I close the Primal Zone business page, does that mean that closed group that's associated with it will be closed?
No, the group will be a completely separate entity. So you can deactivate the page and the group will still remain. They're linked, as in if you log into Facebook, they'll be under your login, but no, they won't be. They're not the same audience. They're not linked in that way. So you'll be fine.
And somebody else told me that because of my IP, because I've got the name protected, that I have to be seen to be using it on the different platforms as well, which is another reason why. Because I do put the posts in there, they just don't get, because it's a business page, it just doesn't get the interaction. And then what I often do is then share it to my personal page where it does get the interaction. So I'm wondering if I just hold on to it for a bit longer while I work out what is the best thing to do with regards to that.
It may not be much use to you, but at least you're using it, and it contains fresh content. So
yeah, it's not costing me anything, and it's not. I'm just
Vividly Simple has a Twitter account that we haven't posted in for 3 years, 4 years, and even then, there's probably only 3 tweets in it. Full stop. It's doing me no good at all.
No.
It just makes us look like tumbleweed, so that's got to go.
So Claire, what's your official line on Twitter then for businesses at the moment?
I don't advise anyone to use Twitter currently. I think and that was even before it was sold. I think it's totally, it's changed hugely since Musk took over. My opinion on Twitter is, unless you have time and almost a dedicated employee to tweet constantly and to keep up with what other people are saying and to get involved in conversations, it's like wading through treacle to try to get anywhere on Twitter. So even, our biggest client is Vets for Pets, who do have this huge digital team. They only use Twitter as a customer service platform because, the nature of what they do, people get very passionate about their pets. So if something, sadly goes wrong, then there's, we do have to deal with quite a lot of complaints online, and Twitter is somewhere that people will go and tag the Daily Mail and try to get, the headline. So they simply use it as they'll keep a track on who's talking about them as a business. So, keep track on hashtags and mentions. But yeah, even they don't, because they just don't find that they have the resource to make enough headway with Twitter. And I try hard not to let my personal opinions affect what I say for people to use for their business, because equally, I don't like Twitter. I think it's toxic. I think it's a horrible place to be. But business-wise, I really struggle to find a place where Twitter is valid for any business.
Yeah, I tried it for my business and don't. I've still got an account, but I like Twitter for news if you curate your feed carefully.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it, actually. Yeah, there's an awful lot of rubbish and, as I say, toxicity, but if you curate your feed carefully, it's a good place to keep up with what's happening.
I tend to follow journalists rather than anything else, so that and follow certain MPs where that the narrative isn't going to be too skewed in certain ways. Obviously, it's got party bias, but and then obviously people like Phil that just rants about stuff.
Where Twitter is rubbish from a business perspective, if you for example, Andy, if you put Vividly Simple and you tweet from that, it's pointless. It's a waste of time. But where Twitter is exceptionally good, if he doesn't completely stuff it up, is building a personal brand, building Andy Steer, currently owner of Vividly Simple. And if you tomorrow start a new business, it's owner of Vividly Simple plus something else, etc., etc. And it's all about you and your journey and you building your own personal brand. It's far better on Twitter than it is anywhere else. because people follow you. You know, look at someone like Richard Branson. They follow Richard Branson. He's the owner of multiple businesses, etc., etc. You don't follow Virgin. You follow Richard Branson. It's that side of it. So if you go on there and you create Vividly Simple, you're wasting your time. But if you create Andy Steer as a business owner, etc., and you tweet about business, you tweet about tech, you tweet about all that sort of stuff, and you put that in the bio, this is what I tweet about, this is my experience, my expertise, then it's fantastic. If he doesn't stuff it up over the next few weeks, which I think he's going to. So hold that thought.
So
Yeah, don't join yet.
Don't join
well,
yet.
I've already got one. I'm not going to join as me. I've decided that as a result of this conversation, number one, I haven't paid enough thought to what we are doing, because other things, it's been a busy year and lots of other things have become top of the list. But my current thinking is that I'm probably going to close the Vividly Simple Facebook and Twitter pages. Facebook, I get some engagement with my own profile, and that locally in particular, we get lots of recommendations locally. I don't like it because it's my personal, in my mind, it's my personal Facebook where I keep up to date with family stuff, but I don't think I can change that yet. I'm going to put an increased emphasis on Google, because I know for 2 years I've had Google My Business or Google Local or Google Search. We've got 2 offices, one in Berkshire, one in Berkshire, one in Buckinghamshire, and they're separate, and I can't for the life of me link the bloody things together. So I get notified about both separately. Google I'm going to sort out, but the biggest thing is to actually pick up on what Philip said, is to be more structured about communicating with the people we already know, and to somehow categorize them so that I can easily write personal, relevant information in an email to people we know. A good example for us is when they do operating system updates for Macs. Sometimes it's a good idea to hold off. And for me at the moment, it's a bit time consuming to pull together the list of people who are Mac users that I should write to, but I need to just structure it so it's easier, and then we do it.
But if you have, whether you have a CRM or whether you have an email marketing tool and you're tagging these people with that sort of information, then it's easy for you to pull a list. Exactly. And then whether you use MailChimp to send it, whether you then export those people and whack them in your Google, in Google and send the email. Even if I use a MailChimp or any of those tools, the first thing I do when I sign up and set them up is I create a template that looks just like it's plain text. Yeah. I have never sent an email that's got fancy graphics and all these colorful backgrounds, because it straight away looks like it should end up in your spam folder, because people don't want that. They want a nicely drafted email that's just come from your Google account or whatever account you use, because then they're going to read it. They're going to look at that and think, oh, Andy just sent me an email, not MailChimp have just sent one on behalf of Andy.
Exactly.
So, if you want to do one with Mac updates, just drop that, just write a subject line and just write, hey, just want to let you know, don't update your Mac because it's about to break.
Yeah, that's my plan. I'm really conscious. We've got a couple of minutes left. Claire, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all of this sort of good industry knowledge with us.
No, thank you. I've loved it. It's been a brilliant discussion.
In return, how can we best help you? What's your preferred approach for us to take away from this and think of you? What can we do for you?
Sure, thank you. So I particularly enjoy working with startups or new businesses. So people who are kind of just getting started on their business journey and might have had advice from an agency to do everything. And they're thinking, oh my God, I can't do everything. I can't afford it. I don't have the time. I can kind of, sit them down with a nice warm cup of tea and say, right, we don't need to do everything. This is what we can do. So I love working with startups. So if you've got any startup connections who might need some advice, an introduction would be amazing. The consultancy service that we run, which is generally sort of 3 to 6 months, we have one meeting a month. it's about accountability, enthusiasm, learning. That can make such a big difference to small businesses in particular. So again, if you've got any businesses, if anyone sort of says, oh, fed up with my marketing, my social media, I don't know what I'm doing, think of me. That would be lovely. And let's just connect on LinkedIn and other platforms that we might all be on, and kind of keep in touch. I've loved it. It's been a brilliant discussion.
Brilliant.
Where are you based, Claire?
I'm in High Wycombe.
Oh, are you? Okay. So am I, near enough.
Ah, brilliant.
Not far away. Brilliant. Okay, but there we are. Exactly 11:30. We don't often get our time spot on, but we're doing all right today. Great to see everyone. The next session on the 15th of December, we've got David Jeebesley coming along to talk to us. Sheila, remind me, what's he going to talk to us about?
How to future-proof yourself.
There you go. Future-proof ourselves, not just our businesses.
Yeah.
I've got some questions after that. So there'll be no session between Christmas and New Year. Our next session will be in January. And I'd like to make that first session in January a bit of a discussion. Let's use the time to take a step back and understand what everyone wants out of influence going forward. Who do we want to listen to during 2023? What sort of balance do we want to make between business topics and personal topics? What sort of balance do we want between helping each other to navigate the waters of running a business versus personal support or emotional support? How do we want this group to evolve over 2023? And how often do we want to invite someone external to come and talk to us? And how often do we want to sort of put the spotlight on some of us internally to get to know each other better? So I think it should be quite a fascinating session early in January.
Can I ask, Andy, are you looking for more people to join? Because I've got a couple of clients that I know want to do a bit more connecting and networking. How do you work in terms of that?
So we're very keen to get the right people joining us.
Yeah.
So the right people would be people like us, people like you, who have the same sort of approach to business and life, We're not desperate to grow to thousands of people, and we like to meet people first and see what they're about. The nightmare scenario for us would be people who wanted to join to suddenly get loads of referrals.
Yeah, to go for the big sell. Yeah,
it's a slow process. We like to get to know each other, but equally we know each other well, so we can spot the right people to refer when the opportunity comes along.
Okay, well, I'll always kind of drop you a line first, because there's one person in mind in particular that is looking for this kind of more community sort of networking.
You did drop me a note about the guy at the car leasing place, and I did respond to him. I suspect what he's looking for is something more referral.
I think they're going to be looking for a bit more kind of looking for return. Yeah.
But we are very keen to expand when the right people come along.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good to know.
Yeah, we try not to fill the place with people in the same professions. So if another IT guy came along, we probably wouldn't be thinking, yeah, great, we'd have another IT guy. But it's really down to the people who are already part of the group to decide whether it's appropriate or not. If a guy who's sold business telephony came along, might be slightly different, because that's not necessarily what I do, I'm interested in. But yeah, chuck them forward to me by all means. I will always have a conversation with people. They're always welcome to come along as a guest, to see what it's like. So
we can check them out.
Yeah, we need to check them out.
I feel very scrutinised now.
It's a very supportive group as well. We do work very well together, and that's what's so lovely about it.
That's great. You can tell like the vibe of the group is really relaxed and friendly. So thank you very much for having me on. I've really enjoyed the discussion this morning.
Brilliant.
Good to meet you, Claire. Sorry I turned up a little bit late. I was at another meeting.
No worries.
But, very interesting.
Great to see you all. Have a good
Thanks, guys.
Good couple of
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.